Hawaii Death Maze Tragedy. It was January 29th, 2017, and Gregory Wilhelm was standing at the edge of the Wainapanapa Caves in Maui, Hawaii. He had traveled there with 3 friends to explore the stunning state park. But Gregory had something else on his mind. He wanted to find a secret tunnel said to be hidden deep inside one of the caves, a place tied to an old legend where a princess had been killed. He believed there was a hidden passage no one had explored before. Gregory was 33. As a kid, he'd been a Boy Scout and loved hiking and camping. Later, he joined a 12-step program and went to a high school in California. During those years, his love for nature grew deeper. In 2006, he started a company that recycled debris in an eco-friendly way. Through that job, he met people who were into cave diving. That's how he ended up in Hawaii, with people who also loved adventure. That Sunday, Gregory and his 3 friends, 1 man and 2 women, walked into the park and were blown away. Black sand beaches, lava tubes, blowholes, sea stacks. It looked like paradise. But warning signs were everywhere. Rough waves, dangerous currents, sharp reefs. Near the beach stood another sign. This one told a story. A princess once lived here and her husband killed her in a cave. Locals said red shrimp fill the water every year, turning it red as a reminder of her death. Rumors claimed that a hidden tunnel still existed somewhere deep in the cave. That's what Gregory came for. After taking in the sights, the group cooled off in the pool at the cave entrance. The water was chilly but clear. They swam with goggles, laughed, and relaxed. But Gregory kept glancing toward the dark passageway beyond the pool. He told his friends he wanted to check it out, just a little. The women said no, too risky. His male friend was curious too and decided to follow. Gregory sealed his phone in a plastic bag and turned on the flashlight. The women stayed behind. Gregory led the way. The cave quickly changed from sunny and calm to pitch black. The rocks above formed a canopy that blocked out all light. They squeezed through tight tunnels, the walls scraping their skin. The water began to rise. They kept moving. Gregory swam ahead, more eager with every stroke. His friend followed behind, slower, more cautious. Gregory spotted a tiny tunnel. "This might be it," he said. He told his friend to wait while he squeezed through. Inside the small chamber, Gregory's light suddenly vanished. His phone had slipped from his hand. He reached for it, but the phone had sunk, face down. Total darkness. He called out. His friend called back. Then nothing. The water kept rising. Panic set in. Gregory flailed through the water, searching for his phone. His breathing quickened. He found no light, no exit, just freezing water and rock walls. His friend turned back, feeling his way through the dark, praying he wouldn't get lost too. After what felt like forever, he made it out and told the women what had happened. They were terrified. Gregory was still inside. The man dove back in. He pushed through the tunnels again, shivering in the cold water. Then, something caught his eye, a faint shimmer in the dark. It was Gregory's phone, but Gregory wasn't there. Somewhere deeper inside the cave, Gregory was still alive. He had found tiny pockets of air trapped under the rocky ceiling, just enough to breathe. But he had no idea which way to go. He swam blindly, bumping into walls, trying not to drown. Outside, his friend surfaced again. Still, no Gregory. They called 911. The fire department arrived at 1:04 p.m. They took one look and knew this was beyond them. They called in the dive rescue team. When the dive team arrived, they brought special lights, gear, and training. They entered the cave. They searched deeper than anyone had before. At 5:04 p.m., they found him. Gregory Wilhelm was floating in the water, 75 feet from the entrance. He had drowned. Rave Cave Tragedy. It was July 10, 2005, and 5 friends, Miguel, Carlos, Alejandro, Alio, and Daniel, were loading their truck for a weekend of camping and partying near a cave in San Luis Potosí, Mexico. They brought alcohol, speakers, and tents, but no helmets, no maps, and no real gear. They had never been inside a cave before. Miguel had seen photos online of underground raves held inside a place called Cueva de los Caballos. That was all it took. He pitched the idea, and the rest agreed without much thought. None of them checked the weather. None looked up the terrain. They packed as if they were going to a beach, not into one of the world's most dangerous cave systems. By the time they arrived, the sun was going down and music was already thumping in the distance. Cars were parked every which way on the muddy field outside the cave. It had rained lightly earlier, but the sky was still cloudy, and more storms were on the way, though the group didn't know it. They set up their tents and started drinking right away. No one tested their phone lights. No one kept track of time. Daniel rolled his ankle before they even reached the cave. He brushed it off and kept going. They followed the music into the darkness. There were signs. Some said, "No entry." Others warned of dangerous terrain, but most were ignored or barely visible. Inside the cave mouth, a crowd was already forming. Someone had set up lights and a sound system. People were dancing, yelling, drinking. The 5 friends joined in. Hours passed. Most of their phone batteries were drained from taking photos and videos. The air grew humid. The walls dripped with condensation. Sometime after midnight, Miguel decided he wanted more beer. The others told him to wait. Rain had started pouring outside, and the cave entrance was getting slick. But Miguel insisted. Alejandro, who was still somewhat sober, agreed to go with him. They left the cave without lights. No one had flashlights. No one had helmets. The path back to the campsite was barely visible, lit only by flashes of lightning. Mud sucked at their shoes. Visibility was nearly zero. Miguel walked ahead, holding an empty sack for the beer. He moved quickly, not seeing the steep slope in front of him. There was a loud crash. Alejandro froze. The sound of bottles breaking rang out, followed by Miguel's scream as he disappeared into a hidden drop, then silence. Alejandro called out again and again, but Miguel didn't answer. Somehow, in the dark and rain, Alejandro found his way back to the cave and told the others what happened. Panic spread fast. Carlos, Alio, and Daniel rushed outside into the rain, yelling Miguel's name. Someone else, one of the few who wasn't drunk, managed to call for help. Rescue crews arrived early the next morning. By then, the storm had slowed. The 4 friends showed them where Miguel had vanished. The rescuers knew the place well. They called it Sótano de Sótano Norte. Locals knew to stay away. It had killed people before. The team set up ropes and lights. They used helmets, harnesses, and communication gear. At the bottom of the drop, they found broken glass, mud, and Miguel's body. He had fallen nearly 160 feet in total. He had struck rocks at multiple points on the way down. He died instantly. Sótano del Aire tragedy. It was August 22, 1999, and Christy Quintana and 5 others were hiking toward a cave called Sótano del Aire, hidden deep in the Sierra del Alvarez Mountains. Christy had been dreaming about this moment for over a year. She'd heard about this little-known cave during a past trip to Mexico and became obsessed with finding it. Christy wasn't new to caves. She'd been caving since 1995 and was known in her Texas community as the type of person who smiled through the mud and always welcomed new adventurers. But what made her different was her hunger for caves no one else had touched. Unmapped places, hidden places. Sótano del Aire wasn't on most maps. It was dangerous. It had unstable rock, deep vertical drops, and thick layers of guano that could spread a disease called histoplasmosis, an infection that spreads when people breathe in fungus spores from bird or bat droppings. The air was cold. The walls were crawling with millipedes, scorpions, and snakes. Entering it meant rappelling straight into the dark. Christy didn't care. She wanted in. She had been living in San Luis Potosí for weeks, learning Spanish and caving with locals. When she mentioned Sótano del Aire to some of them, they were eager to join her. That morning, she and 5 others, Miguel, Rocio, Cuauhtemoc, Alfredo, and Sergio, left for the cave. Alfredo and Sergio stayed topside. The rest prepared to descend. At the edge of the pit, they checked the loose rock and made sure the rope didn't rub against the wall. Christy went first, followed by Miguel, then Rocio and Cuauhtemoc. They were about 130 feet down when it happened. At 10:30 p.m., Alfredo and Sergio heard it, a deep, thunderous crash. They ran to the edge. A massive part of the left wall had collapsed. Rocks the size of small cars had fallen into the pit. They screamed down, hoping for a response. Christy had been hit. Several rocks had struck her head and back. Her neck was fractured, but that wasn't the worst part. The real damage was to her lower spine. Her legs didn't move. Miguel was just below her on a sloped rock ramp. Somehow, he hadn't been hit. He climbed to her as fast as he could. She was awake, but barely. Miguel knew she couldn't climb. Worse, she was stuck in her harness. Cavers call what happens next harness hang syndrome. When someone hangs motionless in a harness, blood starts pooling in the legs. After just 15 minutes, the brain and heart begin to lose oxygen. Even healthy climbers can pass out. Christy didn't have 15 minutes. Miguel looked up at the 130 feet between them and the surface. He didn't have rescue training, but he knew he had to try. He climbed fast. It took him an hour to reach the surface. When he got there, he explained everything. There was no rescue gear, no haul system, no medical help, just 3 cavers, their bare hands, and a friend in trouble. They built something called a Georgia haul, just a rope and manpower, no pulleys, no machines. Before they could lift her, they had to move 3 huge rocks still balancing near the cave's edge. If any of those fell, they could hit her again. They started hauling at 12:30 a.m. Slowly, painfully, they brought her up. By 3 a.m., they had pulled her to within 12 feet of the surface. Then the rope snagged. Christy was stuck just below the lip. She was barely conscious. Miguel rappelled down again to help guide her past the edge. He got close. He looked at her. She wasn't moving. They pulled harder. She rose a few more feet. But then, nothing. She was 5 feet below the lip, and they couldn't get her past the overhang. By now, nearly 5 hours had passed since the collapse. Sergio hiked 2 hours back to the truck, then drove all the way to San Luis to get help. He arrived at 7 a.m. The rescue team reached the cave 4 hours later. By 2 p.m., rescuers removed the rest of the rocks and began recovery. They didn't tell Rocio and Cuauhtemoc what had happened. They were still trapped inside, below the collapse, and hadn't been able to climb out. The team waited until 5 p.m., after both had reached the surface, to break the news. Christy was dead. Subscribe to this new channel dedicated to cave tragedy videos. Thanks for watching.